Hey, happy Vlogmas number 4. I'm sorry to come to you so late. It's like 5:50 in the evening here in Indiana, and I thought I was going to be able to get to you a lot sooner, but I could not because life got busy for me. So I was going to make this a review, but we're not going to make it a review. Let's just do a discussion of sorts, because there are some things on my mind about these OC ladies, and let's talk about it. So we're on part 2 of the reunion, and you know, picking up where they left off about Vicky and Kelly and exchanging shots and going below the belt and all that. And once again, you know, Vicky was quick to say I'm sorry after she's already put stuff out there in the atmosphere without. And again, you would have thought that she would have learned her lesson with Tamra, because, you know, she heard a rumor that Eddie was gay, and practically Tamra wanted to fish gutter with a butter knife, because how dare you spread rumors about my husband and his sexuality. And you know, later on, she was like, it was a rumor. So you should be old enough and adult enough to know that you've been in the presence of her husband, and unless you was watching him receive any kind of sexual transaction from another dude, why would you even carry that out there? So she does the same thing. She didn't learn it from Tamra. So this whole thing about the cocaine, then she goes, it was a rumor, and I'm sorry I spread it. See, back to that adage, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to beg for permission. You go and you put that already out there for millions to see, an accusation that is unfounded, and then you're gonna say I'm sorry. You ain't no good, Vicky. Okay, so Shannon is talking about her divorce. You know, whatever. You know, this was the year of Shannon hopefully getting her glow up, and, you know, really coming from a flatlined marriage. She was trying to make something that wasn't there. He's got a girlfriend. The girlfriend has moved in. They're in a very exclusive community, and you know, allegedly there's a rumor going around that the girlfriend may be pregnant, and so, you know, she's got all these emotions about her ex-husband and all that. And, you know, listen, she obviously identified herself as the wife and the mother. And even though they've all gone through it, if you have made that part of your identity, and now that is no longer your identity, there is a grieving, a mourning, a death of sorts. And so, you know, although they have given Shannon some leeway, Shannon has been really annoying. And we're going to see that going on to the next part, because you cannot, to the detriment of others, keep putting all of your problems out there and not being able to reciprocate what's going on. And let's face it, if anybody's been watching the OC, Shannon was not a good friend. She wasn't. She was so wrapped up to you know, downsizing for you know, rich people problems, downsizing from 14,000 to 4,000 square feet of you know, living space, not knowing that the water cost. You know, she's obviously has had a man take care of everything in her life, and she didn't know the normal stuff. You know, it is what it is. So now she's in for a rude awakening. What I find funny is that Gina and Shannon are two sides of the same coin, just talking about 20-something years later. Because for all we know, Shannon is 53, 54 years old with no, what we would call, viable skills. Meaning that, you know, she never went to school that we know of, where she got like some formal education, or she's, you know, she's done something that has gained her some skills and things. Now, obviously she's got that QVC with the meals, which is great. But that's just recently happened. Had David still been the husband, she would have never done anything else. She would have never ventured out. She would have never gotten her own stuff. She would have never even tried to parlay some of the love of holistic stuff to making that some of her own income. She wouldn't have had any gumption to do that. And as far as we know, because I saw one of the episodes where she was in the cantina, the little house, and she was there with Kelly. I think she was there with Kelly, and Kelly was like, so what are you gonna do? And she's like, I don't know. She's never lived on her own ever in her whole adult life. She went from her mama's house, her parents' house, to now playing house. She's never lived on her own. And I guess, being in the military, I've seen that a lot too, where a lot of people will jump from being under their parents' roof and then they'll, get married, but yet they still have not really understood that independence that you get from just kind of standing on your own 2 feet. I left home at 17. I didn't get married till I was almost 24. So I had 7 years of really figuring things out on my own, paying my bills on time. And this was before we were doing anything online, where I actually had to do a budget and figure out all the things that I'm financially responsible for, making sure that they're paid on time, and going to the electric company and paying the bill and all of that, and making sure that I took care of my car and all of that. She's not had to do anything like that. So they're both stunted in a way. And Gina, instead of looking at Shannon's life as a cautionary tale and seeing that, I'm really ahead of the game by acknowledging that this marriage isn't working, and now I can start doing something, because evidently all she did was have babies. And I don't know what she was doing, because she's 30-something years old, and all her children are under the age of, I think her kids are under the age of 8. So what were you doing between the ages of 20 and say 20 and 29? Because she's 33, 34. I think her kids are like maybe 5 years old. So there's a whole space of time that you could have been going to school, furthering your education, getting some kind of certification, something. So, you see these ladies, with the exception of Vicky, who has an empire, and Emily, who is a lawyer. Tamara finally started doing stuff because she went and got a real estate license, but she didn't really make a career out of it. And now she's the co-owner of the gym with her husband, which is good. She's into fitness. This is a good fit for her. But, let this be a cautionary tale. You've got to have your own stuff. You've got to have your own stuff, and nobody can take it away from you if you got some kind of certification stuff. So, what is she going to do? That has not been answered. What are you going to do? What are your credentials? What have you been doing? Do you have any paper other than a high school diploma? I'm so curious to know that. Did you go to be a dental hygienist? And, hey, granted, you didn't use you didn't use it. Okay, here's an example. Okay, so I'm in the legal field because I deal with real estate, but I went to school formally to be a paralegal. Went to school, got my bachelor's of science in paralegal studies, 4-year degree, internship, worked at an attorney's office, but I don't do that day to day. Now, I work with contracts and all that stuff. So if something was to happen, I could still make it on my own and at least come in, even if I'm not on the high scale. If I had to go back, I can say I have the degree. I can say that I've worked and done these things. What have you done, Gina? Girl. Anyway. So let's talk about Emily. Now, I thought I was going to like Gina because I'm a New Yorker. She's a New Yorker, but she's a young woman. And in some ways, she doesn't fit. She doesn't fit because all the ladies are much older. She's a little bit naive and a little bit on the she's just a little bit greener than the other ladies because they've already been through what she's starting to go through in life, right? Okay. But Emily, I thought I was going to start to like her throughout the whole season, but if they didn't ask her back, I wouldn't be upset. Really, if they said, thanks but no thanks, I wouldn't be upset because, for one, this is one thing that they touched on it, is that Emily, and I don't know if it's because she feels like she's an alpha female about schooling people. You don't school me. That whole schooling thing. Now, I understand about setting boundaries, but she was really always curt with someone. And again, I understand holding your ground and setting boundaries, but she did have that finger pointing, like I'm talking to my toddlers. She's more firm with the girls than she is with her own kids, and we saw how she was with her kids. She didn't have any kind of authoritative voice, and she sure wasn't putting her fingers out and telling them, sit your butt down. She didn't use the same type of authority with her own kids as she's trying to school Sharon and things like that. And then when I saw her, because, I'm not one to okay, I'm saying this because I can say this about myself. Emily, when she is not smiling or talking or anything like that, she comes off like she's been sucking on lemons, where Tamara calls it resting bitch face, right? And, you always want to say, fix your face, because Emily, if she's not talking to you where you know that she's coming from a pleasant place, she looks like she wants to poke your eyes out. I just noticed that. And I don't know if it's the Botox or her squinting her eyes where she's just trying to be attentive, but she always has this look like she's been sucking on lemons. Now, what I did feel bad about is the horrible things that us women do to other women, which is talking about, these keyboard gangsters talking about her weight and she should do that. And I thought that was terrible. But what I'm saying in reference about her face is what I'm saying. Like, I try to make a point to always smile, because I know that my normal disposition of my face, I know that it looks like I'm ready to hurt somebody. I know that about myself. So I try to always have a pleasant disposition on my face. And maybe she didn't realize that's how she looked, but even sitting there, she looked like she just did not want to be bothered with anybody. That was what she was giving me with her face. Yeah, I said Gina was annoying, and I thought Emily was bossy, and I didn't like the fact that she got a lot of body shaming. Now let's talk about, because they ended, it really didn't talk about much, and this whole thing about there was another thing I wanted to talk about. They were really, I thought like this part 2 was really ganging up on Shannon, and Shannon needs to be taken to task with some things. But this issue about Shannon making a reference about Emily and her husband Shane, and that she had made a comment that when she had heard something that it reminded her about her own relationship, and in the same sentence she says, but I cannot project that on them, because they were having a conversation about what did people think about Emily and Shane's relationship. Now, Emily was up in arms again, trying to school her about that, but Emily did the same thing to Shannon, which was when Shannon was, flipping out about some things and she was emotional about some things, she made the same type of reference about Shannon, saying that you know, when I see Shannon do this and act like this, it reminds me of my mother. What are you implying? So my thing is, you're projecting Shannon's behavior or this isolated incident of how she's reacting to your mother's, you know, her diagnosed mental health. So aren't you projecting that on Shannon? So my thing is, why don't y'all just both shake hands and make it a wash? Because Shannon made a reference about an incident that she saw. You made a reference about an incident you saw. You both are mad about the incidents, but you both did the same thing. So why don't y'all just shake hands and say, you know what? Let's make bygones be bygones. And then of course, Shannon, again, is exhausting as a friend. She's one of those people that she wants you to have a shoulder and an ear to bleed on, but she's not going to reciprocate it. And then when she thinks that she has, she's upset because it's like, no, that's not exactly what happened. You said all these things about David, me. I'm so overwhelmed, blah, 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 blah. But not once you're like, well, enough about me. How about you? And time again, that's what we saw. Shannon didn't do that. She's an exhausting friend. And so, you know, Shannon just needs to eat it because she was exhausting. I was exhausted. And I know I was just watching what made on camera. We're not even talking about what was on the cutting room floor, right? So that is all I have. Take care of yourself and each other. And I will talk to you tomorrow for Vlogmas 5. Bye.